Wednesday, June 11th, 2014. This is still, of course, the morning edition. I'm Yael Wisner-Levy. Thank you for staying with us. On to our next story, the latest drama in the UK. Education Secretary Michael Gove said earlier this week that conservative Muslim school leaders in Britain's second largest city, Birmingham, conducted an organized campaign that seeks to impose faith-based ideology on their pupils. We're now joined in studio by the i24news correspondent in London, who is here in Jaffa, Jonathan Sacerdoti. Good morning, Jonathan. Thank you for joining us. So we still have to say that these are allegations. It hasn't been proved that there is any kind of infiltration. These are allegations.
Well, the Ofsted report was published on Monday, and it's come down conclusively and said that despite the fact that the Trojan horse letter, which is meant to have started this all off, might have been a fake, the actual investigation has found that there has been an undue influence of Islamic ideas and morals being forced into schools in Birmingham, and that's been done through governors taking over the governance of these schools and trying to enforce their own values over the students. And these are not Islamic schools, they're not Muslim schools, these are general schools, which should be, of course, the government is now saying, pursuing British values and British ethos and teaching children those values which are important to the country, not values which are important to a specific religion. Right,
so what do we give us some examples of this quote-unquote infiltration, and is the British government looking for British values meaning non-religious? Is there a clear distinction?
Michael Gove has said that what he wants these schools to be doing is promoting equality, freedom for women and the like. And so some have even challenged him and asked if this means that in those schools they should ban the niqab or the burqa. And he has said directly that he does believe that girls in the British education system ought to be able to find their voice and not feel silenced by the environment in which they live. Right. The other areas in which the accusations have been made, and these are from whistleblowers and insiders, the head teachers of these schools have even said that they have felt pressurized to teach Islamic values. School assemblies have been banned on non-Islamic subjects. Christmas plays were altered in order not to offend children from a Muslim background. Swimming was segregated between the sexes. Some have said that there was some segregation of after-school events. The list goes on, and in fact it's quite serious, that these are not small things, these are not minor concerns. Sex education has been altered in order that it shouldn't offend the religious sensibilities of some families whose children are at the schools. And these are the sorts of things that I think Mr. Gove is saying that it's important should be resolved in these schools, so that British education is the same for children up and down the country, learning the values that British people think are important.
Right. What led, though, to this situation, and what led perhaps to the latest trigger? Because what you're describing is an ongoing situation. Christmas was a while ago, only now it's coming out?
Oh, that's right. Well, so what happened is there was a letter, so-called Trojan horse letter, which claimed to be from whistleblowers and insiders, saying exactly how this worked. And the letter detailed a plan whereby Muslims in an area would try to take over the governance of the school by becoming the trustees, not the trustees, but the governors, rather, of the school, and that they would then force out head teachers who weren't Muslim or pressurize head teachers into pursuing these more traditional, very conservative Muslim ideas. That letter has since been assumed to be a fake, but it triggered off this inspection by Ofsted, which is the body that examines and inspects schools in the UK, and they have found that in fact there was some sort of deception going on. They do feel that there was something worthy of investigation regardless of the veracity of that letter, and they have now published this quite scathing report which is damning about what has been going on in British schools. And Michael Gove and the government are now very keen to come down strong on this, and they're now calling for flash examinations of schools with no warning, where the Ofsted inspectors can go in and inspect on no notice, so that the school has no time to cover up any of this sort of activity.
Right, and we're speaking specifically about Birmingham. Just a little bit for our viewers, perhaps, that are not. It's the second largest UK city, and it does have a very strong and growing Muslim population, which is perhaps another factor leading to the situation there in terms of schools.
And it's not just Birmingham, in fact. In today's newspapers, it's been revealed that Ofsted is now starting investigations in Bradford, another very high Muslim population area. But I think that the point is that's being made here by the government, by Gove, and by the head teachers who made the complaints, and other staff who felt pressurised and bullied in these schools, is that these are not faith schools, and that a maintained school that's using public money should be teaching not Muslim values, but should be teaching teaching British values. There are, of course, faith schools in the UK, state and other subsidised schools, and some of them are Muslim, some of them are Jewish, the vast majority are Church of England, and those schools have dispensation to teach certain religious values, obviously not at the expense also of British values and general sex education and the like, but they can tweak the curriculum accordingly. But these schools are not in that category, and these schools are the ones that have been apparently taken over by a secret plan. So it's the deception, it's the corruption, and it's the teaching of these Muslim values in a place where the government feels they have no place. That Michael Gove and Ofsted now has backed him up with this report. They're hoping to target that and try to resolve these issues as quickly as possible to give faith to the British people again.
Have non-Muslim students been speaking out or given their testimonies of what it is to be a non-Muslim student in these public schools, which are run, as you said, by governors and so forth that are of Islamic descent?
Well, Ofsted, when they did the investigations into these schools, did them fairly thoroughly, speaking to teachers, speaking to pupils. There was some controversy about how they went about it, and this has been a very sensitive topic all along. So there were a couple of examples where people were upset by how Ofsted were talking to the students and trying to find out what they had and hadn't been taught. There were some suggestions that they were asking very young students in some of the schools what they knew about homosexuality and the like, and that was seen as somewhat insensitive regardless of the wider issue of the Muslimization of these schools and their values. But it's not just the children, it's also the teachers. Female teachers have said that they felt pressurized in these schools. Some have felt that they've been silenced. Some of the children in the schools, the female students especially, have said that they were encouraged not to speak to boys. So these sorts of issues are very worrying for much of Britain, because these aren't values that I think many British people recognise as their own.
And definitely not something that they've used in their education system for the past few years. But Britain is not alone in the European continent, of course, trying to assimilate between different minorities and keep the nationalistic value of the country. How does it compare to other European states? France, for example, also dealing with many different minorities, Jewish, Muslim, and so forth, and a growing and increasing number of immigrants.
Well, the French, of course, have a different attitude towards religion to the British, and work very hard to keep religion and state quite separate.
Which is perhaps Britain's faulty point.
It may be something that the British government can consider, and what this has, of course, opened up is a discussion within the government and quite a rift between Theresa May, the Home Secretary, and Michael Gove, the Education Secretary, about what it is governments should actually be doing. Should they be there, as Michael Gove said, fighting off the crocodiles coming near the boat, which is what he feels Mrs May does in her department, or should they be doing what he would like, which is draining the swamp, he said, so the crocodiles can't be there in the first place? And that really gets to the root of exactly whether or not the government should be fixing crises or whether it should actually be redesigning Britain from the ground up to make a better future, as he sees it, for the children of the nation.
Right, so a much larger and wider philosophical question at hand here. Of course, this is only one bump in the road under this umbrella of questions. Jonathan Sacerdoti, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.